Hello and welcome to You Asked For It. I am your host, Ann Page. This beautiful set is brought to us today by Sweet Dreams Furniture in Brunswick, Maine. Sweet Dreams Furniture has been voted the #1 furniture store in central Maine for the last 13 years, and I can personally attest to the wonderful furniture that they have there because I have 2 custom-made sofas in my home from Sweet Dreams Furniture, and I love them. I also want to thank the House of Logan today in Bath, Camden, and Boothbay Harbor, who provided this lovely outfit and jewelry for me to wear, and Hair Incorporated in Bath. Heidi, thank you for doing my hair today. I love it. Today we have a very wonderful guest with us, Mr. Doug Protsik from Woolwich, Maine. He is a local musician, and he is the director of the Maine Fiddle Camp. Now, the Maine Fiddle Camp was founded in 1994, and Doug Protsik was a founding member. But in the year 2000, Doug became the director of the Maine Fiddle Camp. And the Maine Fiddle Camp is one of the most exciting musical events to happen in Maine in the summer. And Doug, could you tell us about it?
Maine Fiddle Camp is for everybody. It's a camp not just for children, but it includes children, families, adults, older people, younger people, people of all ages. And at Maine Fiddle Camp, we try to keep the musical tradition of our region alive by teaching people about the dance music, the old dance tunes played on the fiddle, the jigs and the reels, and kind of focus on our own regional style here in New England and also in the Canadian provinces where fiddling is very popular. But also at Maine Fiddle Camp, we have more than just fiddles. We have piano, we have accordion, we have banjo, we offer bass, guitar, penny whistle, cello, and mandolin, and ukulele. And I've brought some of the instruments here to have some fun playing some music for you and demonstrating some of the instruments. So this time of year is a great time of year to be talking about Maine Fiddle Camp because we have some camps coming right up in June. We have 2 weekends in June, starting on June 12th, and then also a June week-long camp. And then later on in the summer, we have a couple of camps in August. So I kind of, this time of year, I get excited about directing Maine Fiddle Camp, and my creative juices are starting to flow, and I want to come up with new ideas to make it more exciting for our campers.
Well, I see, because you did bring some instruments to demonstrate today, could you demonstrate some instruments for us? That would be wonderful.
Well, I would love to do that. I tell you what, we'll start off. I'll demonstrate some old-time piano, and then I'll demonstrate some fiddling, and then we can talk more about Maine Fiddle Camp after I've done a little musical demonstration. At Maine Fiddle Camp, old-time piano is a major part of the New England contra dance music tradition, and it's a wonderful instrument to accompany the fiddle tunes with. I'm going to play a little solo piece, though, on old-time piano that I learned from a fellow named Otto Soper, and he was my mentor for old-time piano. And the left hand plays the bass and rhythm, and the right hand plays the melody. And here's an old tune called The Crooked Stovepipe. All right, there's a little bit of old-time piano that we feature at Maine Fiddle Camp. We have some wonderful piano teachers, including Neil Perlman and Rochelle Aquine from Quebec. Fabulous piano teachers. I once in a while do a little bit of teaching as well. And one of the things that we focus on is how to accompany a fiddle tune with just the backup on the piano. So I'm going to demonstrate that right now. I'm going to demonstrate two different kinds of rhythm, the jig rhythm and the reel rhythm. And the jig rhythm goes something like this. And now we'll try that track that I just did on the piano with some fiddling to go along with it.
That was just great, Doug. Thank you so much for that demonstration. You know, I wanted to ask you a question about the housing at the Maine Fiddle Camp. How do your participants house when they go there?
Right. Well, that's a good question. A lot of people ask that. Maine Fiddle Camp is a real camp. A lot of times they have musical camps, they're called, but they're in college campuses and in dormitories. Maine Fiddle Camp is actually set in a beautiful traditional summer camp setting on a beautiful lake, and there are two basic options for people to house. One is a bunk cabins that are set up, and families can stay in a bunk cabin, sharing it with other families. And then we have adult men bunk cabins, adult women cabins, and also teenager cabins, because if you're 10 years or older, you can come to Maine Fiddle Camp without a parent. And a lot of teenagers do that. And so we'll have a bunk cabin for teenage girls and for boys. But a lot of people choose to bring their own tents and actually camp at camp. And there's some wonderful tent sites along the lake where the camp is. So you can tent by the lake, or you can tent further away if you don't want to hear some of the late night music and singing around the campfire that occurs every night. So you can kind of get away a little bit and have some peace and quiet at night if that is your choice. There's also enough room for people to bring RVs and campers as well. So those are the basic options. Every once in a while somebody will decide to stay at a nearby hotel in Belfast, which the camp is relatively close to. The camp is actually in Liberty, Maine. And so sometimes people stay in motels, but almost everybody loves to stay right at camp because it's just really exciting to be participating all day and into the evening with the programming and the community spirit that's develops there.
Is there a community food program at Maine Fiddle Camp, or do people just provide their own food?
No, the food at Maine Fiddle Camp is really important to us because people thrive when they're eating well. So part of the tuition cost goes to providing 3 meals and snacks for all the campers every day. And we try to get as much locally produced produce and meats as we can afford. And a lot of the food is made from scratch. We serve virtually no processed foods at all. But that kind of food requires a lot of labor. And one of my goals has always been to keep Maine Fiddle Camp at a low cost. And so one way that we solve that problem is that campers are encouraged to volunteer in the kitchen to help prepare the food. And that really helps to bring the cost down and the quality of the food up. So some of the food has gotten such a wonderful reputation, led by our head chef, Tim Johnson from Brunswick, Maine, that sometimes people call it Maine Fiddle Camp.
That's cute. You know, Doug, I met one of the attendees of the Maine Fiddle Camp recently, and he said to me that he believed he got twice the amount of programming for half the price at the Maine Fiddle Camp. So I wondered if you could demonstrate another one of the instruments that you've brought for us today.
Well, I'd like to. I'd love to. I think maybe next I'll demonstrate one of the most popular instruments in New England and Canada for playing the old dance tunes, and that's the accordion. And I've got 2 different types of accordions here to demonstrate. First I'm going to play the piano accordion, and if you play the piano, playing the piano accordion is a logical extension of that, except of course the keyboard is going in a different direction. So in my mind's eye, I'm always thinking of the keyboard like I'm looking at it as a piano, because you can't really look down. And I got all these buttons over here too to play. And so at Maine Fiddle Camp, you learn the wonderful logic behind all of the buttons and how it all works together. So here we go with a classic New England tune called The Silver and Gold. So there we go. Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's the piano accordion. But now, especially up in Canada, the button accordion is very popular. So I'm going to sit down right over here next to Anne, and I'm going to demonstrate the button accordion. Now, the button accordion is set up very much like the harmonica. It was actually developed in Germany. First they came up with the harmonica, and then they came up with the idea of attaching a bellows to provide the air for a gigantic harmonica, and was the birth of the accordion. So this old button accordion is the original style of accordion, and it only has a couple of keys, but it's a really great dance instrument. And the trick to them is just like a harmonica, in that you push on the bellows in one direction and you get a certain note. But then if you hold down that same button and go in the opposite direction, you get a different note. So to play this instrument, you have to keep track of not only where and when of buttons to push, but also what direction the bellows is going in. But the change of the direction of the bellows is what makes this instrument very special for dance tunes. So the church in Sherbrooke. So here we go. 1, 2, 3.
That was just wonderful. Thank you so much. I love that traditional sound of that music. And you know, when I was conversing with you earlier in the week, you said something to me that I couldn't get out of my mind. You said that the Maine Fiddle Camp is an intergenerational socialization experiment. And I wonder if you could tell our audience what that means.
Oh, well, you know, in our modern society, everything is segmented into groups of ages, and But in the old days, when the music and the dancing was popular 200 years ago, people went to the dances all together, and it was a community event. And so the fiddling tradition includes the concept of everybody being involved in the music and in the dancing. By the way, we have a lot of wonderful dancing at Maine Fiddle Camp, and the dancing aspect of the music is really important because fundamentally fiddling is dance music, and you have to understand how the dancing works. So we actually do a lot of dance teaching at Maine Fiddle Camp. And the dancing itself is a really good example of this kind of intergenerational activity that I think our modern civilization is kind of lost, and because the dances are set up for everybody to participate in, regardless of your age. And that's how they did it in the old days, is everybody went to the local Grange Hall for the Saturday night dance, and they brought the children, and if you were musically inclined, that's how the children learned about the music, as they would hear it at the dance, and then eventually they would start playing. I've learned a lot of music from the old-timers in Maine that grew up this way. And a lot of the musicians, I asked them, how did you learn how to play? And they go, I don't know, I just went to the dances with my parents, and before I knew it, I was up on stage playing an instrument. And I don't really even know exactly how I do it, because it became part of their life. So we try to keep that musical tradition and that social tradition of intergenerational celebration an important part of Maine Fiddle Camp, and many people really appreciate that feeling, because what we do is we sort of create a little micro community, and you can't have a real community unless you have all ages. And so there have been camps where we've had an 8-year-old super advanced fiddler in the most advanced workshops that we have, and we might have an 80-year-old fiddler who's a rank beginner. But they're all welcome at Maine Fiddle Camp.
And I heard every year you have some surprises at the Maine Fiddle Camp, and you're planning a big one this year. So
absolutely.
The audience will have to wait to find out what that is.
Yes, I love surprises, and so as director, I always like to have special surprise guests show up. And it's never advertised, but sometimes they're world-famous musicians or some wonderful local musicians that people aren't always aware of, and they come and treat people to just some extra musical performances and some extra musical workshops, which might include some singing as well, or even different styles of music.
Well, speaking of being treated, I wondered if you'd treat us one more time with another demonstration of an instrument that is played at the Maine Fiddle Camp.
Tiptoe to the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Tiptoe from your pillow to the shadow of the willow tree. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Showers away, and if I kissed you in the garden, in the moonlight, would you pardon me? Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
So I just wanted to end this interview by asking you approximately how many people will be attending the Maine Fiddle Camp this year. Do you know?
Well, the camps usually average between 200 and as many as 350 people at each camp. Wow. And we got 5 separate camps, 3 camps in June, 2 weekends in a week in June, starting June 12th, and then 2 week-long camps And by that I mean it starts on Sunday afternoon and runs to Friday afternoon, and those are in August. And people can check out all the information on our website, mainefiddlecamp.org, and you can download registration forms and get signed up right from the website.
Yeah, and I understand people come from all over the country to Maine Fiddle Camp.
They do. We've had people from all over the world actually come. We've got some folks that have been coming for a number of years from Czechoslovakia, for example. They're coming again this year. And I'm getting more and more inquiries about people from the South who want to escape the heat, the summer heat in the South, and come up and experience some New England style fiddling. Because every part of the country has its own musical traditions and different styles of fiddling. So the fiddling is really quite different, even though it came from the same basic Scotch-Irish tradition that most of the fiddling has come from. In the South, it evolved very differently, and also out west. And so there's a certain style that they play in Texas, and a certain style that they play in the southern states. And then there's the kind of unique style that we play here in New England, and that's also represented up in Canada, our neighbors. Fiddling is really big in Canada. We get a lot of people from Canada coming down to Maine Fiddle Camp. There are lots of fiddle camps up in Canada. Fiddling is even more popular in Canada than it is in the United States. So really, music doesn't know anything about borders or boundaries. That the New England and our Canadian friends all celebrate really a very similar style of music.
And there you have it. The Mid-Coast has its own treasure, Doug Protsik, director of the Maine Fiddle Camp. If you really want to have fun this summer, if you want to plan a family vacation, if you want to learn about traditional music, if you want to sit around the campfire, if you want to dance your socks off, it's the Maine Fiddle Camp. Thank you so much, Doug, for being our guest today.
Oh, thank you for asking me, Anne.